Popular culture often references machines and technological robots surpassing human civilization. While these references may sometimes seem exaggerated or taken as a joke, they hold a grain of truth. Technological advancements help make our lives easier and much more efficient. Algorithms are the perfect example of this. But everything has its downsides, and algorithms are no exception. Nowadays, companies make fortunes by exploiting human attention and biases for profit. Despite technological advances, which are supposed to make life easier, we find ourselves more addicted than ever, with increased social anxiety, higher rates of depression, and more time spent on social media than at any other point in history. Understanding the algorithms that dictate much of our lives is a good starting point for addressing these shortcomings. Algorithms completely control our society today, and in some ways, it's not all bad. I want to clarify that I don't want you to see this and think algorithms are entirely negative, because they are not. Algorithms can make things much easier and more efficient, and they indeed help improve our lives in many ways. However, they also have significant downsides, exploiting human nature and biases, and they don't always work in our best interest. So what exactly are algorithms? Essentially, they are data, computers, or codes that follow certain steps to accomplish a task. If you are cooking a recipe, you're following an algorithm, a set of steps, rules, and guidelines to complete that recipe. At its most basic, that is what algorithms are, a sequence of steps to solve a problem. When it comes to social media and various platforms, the situation becomes more complex, as algorithms must follow additional steps to keep a person engaged on the platform. It's not just about showing content the person enjoys to keep them on the platform. That's not enough. Other factors come into play to ensure the person stays connected longer. Algorithms are simply a process of rules that a computer follows as part of its problem-solving capabilities. They are not inherently good or bad, but they actively manipulate billions of people worldwide daily, making them the most persuasive propaganda machines ever created. Thus, we see algorithms as tools, but we also understand that these tools can be used for both educational or entertainment purposes and malicious manipulation. Algorithms are everywhere, more than you might imagine. There are even algorithms designed to predict when you will quit a job. For now, let's focus for a moment on social media. Social media algorithms have their downsides. On one hand, they help you find relevant content and discover new things, whether for entertainment or education. Despite this, even with this content you enjoy, they create exclusivity that can prevent you from exploring new content unless you actively seek it. If you don't take responsibility for searching for information that helps you by conducting research, you are at the mercy of the algorithm to provide it for you. Consequently, when you actively search for new information, it will continue to be recommended to you. But without that effort, you are left with exclusive content based only on the entertainment you are already consuming. Another issue is that, due to how sophisticated algorithms have become, people find it less interesting to go out and socialize in person. Facebook calls the people you're connected with friends, but these aren't really friends. They are people you have online connections with, most of whom you probably don't even talk to. We're on these platforms, consuming content, getting dopamine hits, and feeling a kind of community. What some of us fail to realize is that these online communities lack the in-person nature of interactions. In face-to-face conversations, you can see gestures, facial expressions, and read these cues better, fostering deeper connections. Yes, we can connect online, but if our connections are limited to the digital realm, something is inevitably lost in our sense of belonging. I understand that we're all different. Some of us are more introverted, while others are more extroverted. However, there is great value in having in-person friends with whom you can sit and share, so that social media doesn't become the main thing driving your life. Additionally, algorithms are causing a reduction in attention spans. Attention spans are affected by the nature of constant novelty. Fast scrolling, short clips, quick dopamine hits, bright notifications, and the anticipation of what's next. If you're receiving these rapid dopamine hits and the clips are fast and constant, your ability to focus is obviously impacted. Given this, when you try to focus on a project, a business, or work at your job, your level of concentration simply isn't the same. Some people have reached the point of needing additional stimuli while on TikTok, like split-screen videos, the original video on the top, and a video game or car race on the bottom to keep their attention. That's how severe it has become. I prefer clicking on a video that attracts me and also adds value to my life. This doesn't mean there's no room for entertainment or moments when you just want to disconnect. I have those moments too. Algorithms offer you content tailored for your consumption, disregarding fundamental human needs like attention or well-being. Their sole purpose is to keep you on the platform for as long as possible. If an ad appears, remember, at the end of the day, you are the product. The real customers are the companies paying for advertisements. These businesses sustain the platforms. Such companies consult scientists familiar with addiction and advisors who work with casinos, all with the goal of making their platforms as addictive as possible. We know addiction can be compulsive and serve as an escape. However, I'm not placing all the blame on these companies. It's also up to us to be mindful of how we use these platforms. Cognitive dissonance occurs when someone sees themselves as a good person but works for a company doing questionable things. To avoid concluding they're bad people, they justify the company's actions, even when dubious. As users of algorithmic platforms, we focus on consuming content that's interesting, insightful, entertaining, or personally relevant. But algorithms have a much more mathematical aim: maximizing clicks or increasing engagement. Advertising algorithms, like Meta's, are incredibly advanced at identifying demographic data. They have so much information about people that they can show the right ads to those most likely to buy. If a company tracks buyer behavior through a pixel on their website, this additional data makes the ad platform even more precise in targeting ideal users. On one hand, customers receive relevant products, and businesses thrive by finding their ideal consumers. But this doesn't always mean it's beneficial. Sometimes the product isn't truly good or necessary, but because it's presented to someone who fits the demographic, it appears. In 2021, an analysis by MIT Technology Review revealed that troll farms, organizations that mass-produce online information to manipulate public opinion, reached 140 million Americans through Facebook during the month before the 2020 U.S. presidential election. Astonishingly, 75% of the users exposed to this content had never interacted with the pages distributing it. This highlights the viral nature of certain content. It spreads, attracts attention, causes outrage, and creates hysteria or chaos around a particular post. Psychologically, on a massive scale, people experience strong emotions that drive them to take action. This content spreads so widely because it grabs attention. The more attention something receives, the more it's pushed. This snowball effect stems from the social proof bias. If many people are interested in something, we will be too. Let's examine a three-step psychological process that keeps you on social media platforms longer. First, there's the trigger. A trigger is anything that initiates an action. For instance, turning a key in a car ignition triggers the engine to start. On social media, triggers often take the form of notifications. These notifications alert you to something. Someone liked your post, commented, or followed you. The randomness of these notifications delivers a dopamine hit. It's something new entering your reality, unexpected. And if multiple notifications sound off, you feel tension about what will distract you next. The trigger leads to an action, but it's not always a notification. Sometimes, simply remembering something related to social media acts as a trigger. Psychologically, after spending time on a platform and consuming a variety of videos, memes, and content, you store these memories in your long-term memory. You don't even need to be on the platform to experience a trigger, nor does the trigger need to be in real life. Some platforms send email notifications to lure you back in. After the trigger, you take action, like opening the platform or checking a meme. The final stage of this process is variable reward. This reward is similar to the feeling produced by a slot machine in a casino. The uncertainty of the reward keeps you coming back. There's also a sense of novelty. One technique that has completely changed the game is infinite scrolling. This mechanism alone keeps countless people on social media platforms longer. Subconsciously, we assume websites have an end. When browsing the internet, most sites have a beginning and an end. You start at the top, reach the bottom, and that's it. This repetitive action has been ingrained in us through years of internet use. But with social media platforms, this has changed. The scroll has no end. You never reach the bottom. If you're unaware of this, you're at a disadvantage. It's so subtle and normalized that it's hard to notice what's happening. The creator of infinite scrolling, Asa Raskin, developed it in 2006 with good intentions, to improve user experience, or so he claims. Typically, we understand tools as serving human needs and purposes. The problem now is that platforms have infinite scrolling that never stops. Even Aza, in an interview, expressed some regret for creating it, knowing what it has become. Another method used by social media platforms is the use of bright or red notifications. From a psychological perspective, bright colors, especially red, naturally grab our attention. Red can signify alerts or danger, something we instinctively focus on. However, it also has other psychological associations, often directing our gaze and drawing us in. On social media, many notifications are red or bright colored, a red dot, an exclamation mark, or a red number. Additionally, these platforms incorporate elements of gamification. By introducing game-like mechanics, they aim to motivate users and increase engagement. Incentives such as rewards, badges, and leaderboards create a sense of accomplishment, enticing users to stay active on the platform. It's challenging to adopt different perspectives or even acknowledge flaws in our arguments. Often, we resist doing so because it threatens our sense of belonging and challenges our ideology. Humans are naturally predisposed to cognitive shortcuts, simplifying the processing of vast amounts of information into manageable conclusions. Algorithms exploit a variety of cognitive biases that influence our perception and behavior online. Among the most common are confirmation bias, which leads us to favor content that reinforces our existing beliefs; impulse bias, pushing us to make decisions based on fleeting emotions; attentional relevance bias, making us focus on topics that seem urgent but may lack significance; authority bias, causing us to overvalue the credibility of individuals marked as authoritative, even if they lack expertise in the relevant field; bandwagon effect, which draws us toward popular opinions simply because many others agree; impact bias, leading us to overestimate the importance of certain events; false consensus effect, where we assume others think the same way we do, especially in online communities, often sparking comment wars that algorithms exploit; negativity bias, which capitalizes on our natural tendency to focus on negative content, capturing and holding our attention. To counter these effects, practicing critical thinking is essential. Start questioning the information you encounter online, rather than blindly accepting everything as truth. However, this is easier said than done. Many of us are mentally lazy, preferring others to think for us. While this approach might feel convenient, it often leads to inaccurate worldviews and superficial conclusions. A major challenge to critical thinking is passive consumption. Many people browse social media without awareness or actively interpreting the content they're exposed to. By learning to process and evaluate what you see, you can become more mindful and critically analyze the information you encounter. Though this requires effort, with practice, it becomes a habit. One effective strategy is to limit constant consumption by taking regular breaks. Disconnecting from endless streams of content is vital for mental health. Step away from meaningless consumption, such as memes, political debates with no resolution, or voyeuristically watching influencer lifestyles. These activities often lead to addiction without offering real value. Additionally, train your algorithms to serve you better. Engage with content that benefits you and avoid consistently exposing yourself to negative information. While staying informed is important, overindulgence in distressing news can be detrimental. Beware of groupthink, especially when driven by emotion. Emotional reactions to certain topics often lead groups to form opinions rooted in feelings rather than logic, making it harder to rationally consider other perspectives. When surrounded by such groups, it's easy to get swept up in their mindset. Lastly, remember that you're not missing out. In truth, most of it doesn't matter. I've taken long breaks from social media multiple times, and each time, upon returning, I realized I hadn't missed much. Sure, platforms may have introduced updates, but nothing truly significant had changed. Sometimes, we feel pressured to return because our friends are online, but don't feel obligated. Instead, as much as possible, follow Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialist advice to take responsibility for your freedom and choose authentically for yourself. And always keep in mind, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.